Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We welcome you with open arms, open hearts. Let us continue on this journey through the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the history of the universe. And Prthu Maharaja's pastimes, it's a lot of chapters, isn't it? Prthu Maharaj has gotten a lot of chapters. And his activities now are just going to be starting. There's been a lot of prayers and a lot of mutual glorification between him and his citizens and other personalities from all around the universe, and super instructions and knowledge about how to lead and how to follow. Lots of things for us to aspire to and practice being. And so let us continue. Sanatana Goswami had something to say about this in his Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotra, explaining to us the glories of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Goes like this. Sarva Shastabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Drik Prada, O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwandoditaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the... Yes. Thank you. Excuse us for that. Now put down the volume down to 0. You know how to do that? Put the volume down to 0. Okay. Thanks very much. Where were we? Oh yeah. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Mannishtadaga Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin adinicho chatakada hanamunchakada chinmam premnarit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, we reached the 22nd chapter of the 4th canto. Prthu Maharaja's meeting with the 4 Kumaras. Text 1. The great sage Maitreya said, while the citizens were thus praying to the most powerful King Prthu, the 4 Kumaras, who were as bright as the sun, arrived on the spot. Text 2. Seeing the glowing effulgence of the 4 Kumaras, the masters of all mystic power, the king and his associates could recognize them as they descended from the sky. Purport. The four Kumaras are described herein as Siddheshwaram, which means masters of all mystic power. One who has attained perfection in yoga practice immediately becomes master of the 8 mystic perfections, to become smaller than the smallest, to become lighter than the lightest, to become bigger than the biggest, to achieve anything one desires, to control anything or everything, etc. These four Kumaras, as Siddheshwaras, have achieved all the yogic perfectional achievements, and as such they could travel in outer space without machines. While they were coming to Maharaja Prthu from other planets, they did not come by airplane, but personally. In other words, these four Kumaras were also spacemen who could travel in space without machines. The residents of the planet known as Siddhaloka can travel in outer space from one planet to another without vehicles. However, the special power of the Kumaras mentioned herewith is that whatever place they went to would immediately become sinless. During the reign of Maharaj Prthu, everything on the surface of this globe was sinless, and therefore the Kumaras decided to see the king. Ordinarily, they do not go to any planet which is sinful. Text 3, Hare Krishna. Seeing the four Kumaras, Prthu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore the king, with all his officers, very hastily got up, and anxiously, as a conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted by the modes of material nature. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 3.27 it is said, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Every conditioned soul is influenced by a particular mixture of the modes of material nature. As such, the conditioned soul is attracted to certain types of activity which he is forced to perform because he is completely under the influence of material nature. Here Prthu Maharaj is compared to such a conditioned soul, not because he was a conditioned soul, but because he was so anxious to receive the Kumaras that it was as if, without them, he would have lost his life. The conditioned soul is attracted by the objects of sense gratification. His eyes are attracted to see beautiful things. His ears are attracted to hear nice music. His nose is attracted to enjoy the aroma of a nice flower. And his tongue is attracted to taste nice food. Similarly, all his other senses, his hands, his legs, his belly, his genitals, his mind, and so on, are so susceptible to the attraction of the objects of enjoyment that he cannot restrain himself. Prthu Maharaj, in the same way, could not restrain himself from receiving the four Kumaras, who were bright by dint of their spiritual progress, and thus not only he himself, but also his officers and associates, all received the four Kumaras. It is said, birds of a feather flock together. In this world, everyone is attracted by a person of the same category. A drunkard is attracted to persons who are also drunkards. Similarly, a saintly person is attracted by other saintly persons. Prthu Maharaj was in the topmost position of spiritual advancement, and as such, he was attracted by the Kumaras, who were of the same category. It is said, therefore, that a man is known by his company. Text 4. When the great sages accepted their reception, according to the instructions of the Shastras, and finally took their seats offered by the king, influenced by the glories of the sages, immediately bowed down. Thus he worshipped the four Kumaras. Purport. The four Kumaras are Parampara, spiritual masters of the Vaishnava Sampradaya. Out of the four Sampradayas, namely Brahma Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya, and Rudra Sampradaya. The disciplic succession of spiritual master to disciple, known as the Kumara Sampradaya, is coming down from the 4 Kumaras. So Prthu Maharaj was very respectful to the Sampradaya Acharyas. As it is said by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Sakshat Daritvaina Samasta Shastrayi. A spiritual master, or the Parampara Acharya, should be respected exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Viditvat is significant in this verse. This means that Prthu Maharaj also strictly followed the injunctions of the Shastra in receiving a spiritual master, or Acharya, or the transcendental disciplic succession. Whenever an Acharya is seen, one should immediately bow down before him. Prthu Maharaj did this properly. Therefore the words used here are Prashayanata Kandara. Prashayanata Kandara. Out of humility, he bowed down before the Kumaras. Text 5. After this, the king took the water which had washed the lotus feet of the Kumaras and sprinkled it over his hair. By such respectful actions, the king, as an exemplary personality, showed how to receive a spiritually advanced personality. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Apani Achari Prabhu Jivida Shikaya. It is very well known that whatever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught in his life as an Acharya, he himself practiced. When he was preaching as a devotee, although he was detected by several great personalities to be the incarnation of Krishna, he never agreed to be addressed as an incarnation. Even though one may be an incarnation of Krishna, or especially empowered by him, he should not advertise that he is an incarnation. People will automatically accept the real truth in due course of time. Prthu Maharaj was the ideal Vaishnava king. Therefore he taught others by his personal behavior how to receive and respect saintly persons like the Kumaras. When a saintly person comes to one's home, it is the Vedic custom first to wash his feet with water and then sprinkle this water over the heads of oneself and one's family. Prthu Maharaj did this, for he was an exemplary teacher of the people in general. Text 6. The 4 great sages were elder to Lord Shiva, and when they were seated on the golden throne, they appeared just like fire blazing on an altar. Maharaj Prthu, out of his great gentleness and respect for them, began to speak with great restraint as follows. Purport. The Kumaras are described herein as the elder brothers of Lord Shiva. When the Kumaras were born out of the body of Lord Brahma, they were requested to get married and increase the population. In the beginning of the creation, there was a great need of population. Therefore Lord Brahma was creating one son after another and ordering them to increase. However, when the Kumaras were requested to do so, they declined. They wanted to remain brahmachari throughout life and be engaged fully in the devotional service of the Lord. The Kumaras are called Naishtika Brahmachari, meaning they are never to marry. Because of their refusal to marry, Lord Brahma became so angry that his eyes became reddish. From between his eyes, Lord Shiva or Rudra appeared. The mode of anger is consequently known as Rudra. Lord Shiva also has a Sampradaya party known as the Rudra Sampradaya, and they are also known as Vaishnavas. Text 7. King Prthu spoke, My dear great sages, auspiciousness personified, it is very difficult for even the mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I performed for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty. Purport. When something uncommon happens in one's progressive spiritual life, It should be understood to be incurred by agyata sukriti, or pious activities beyond one's knowledge. To see personally the Supreme Personality of Godhead or His pure devotee is not an ordinary incident. When such things happen, they should be understood to be caused by previous pious activity, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:28. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam. One who is completely freed from all the resultant actions of sinful activities and who is absorbed only in pious activities can engage in devotional service. Although Maharaj Prithu's life was full of pious activities, he was wondering how his audience with the Kumaras happened. He could not imagine what kind of pious activities he had performed. This is a sign of humility on the part of King Prthu, whose life was so full of pious activities that even Lord Vishnu came to see him and predicted that the Kumaras would also come. Text 8. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world, as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Purport. The Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are the bearers of Lord Vishnu, the all-auspicious. As confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5:38, Premanjana Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadaiva Ridayeshu Bilokayanti Yam Shama Sundara Machintuganasa Rupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The devotees, out of their extreme love for Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always carry the Lord within their hearts. The Lord is already in the heart of everyone, but the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas actually perceive and see Him always in ecstasy. Therefore, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are carriers of Vishnu. Wherever they go, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, or the devotees of the Lord, or the devotees of Lord Vishnu, are all carried. The four Kumaras are Brahmanas, and they visited the place of Maharaj Prthu. Naturally, Lord Vishnu and his devotees were also present. Under the circumstances, the conclusion is that when the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased with a person, Lord Vishnu is also pleased. This is confirmed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his 8 stanzas on the spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadat. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is both Brahmana and Vaishnava, one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, then one has nothing more to achieve, either in this world or after death. Text 9. Prthu Maharaj continued, Although you are traveling in all planetary systems, people cannot know you, just as they cannot know the Supersoul, although he is within everyone's heart as the witness of everything. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the Supersoul. Purport. In the beginning of the Srimad-Bhagavatam it is said, Muhyanti yat suryaha. Great demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, and Chandra are sometimes bewildered trying to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It so happened that when Krishna was present on this planet, Lord Brahma and King Indra also mistook him. And what to speak of great yogis or jnanis who conclude that the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is impersonal. In the same way, great personalities and Vaishnavas, like the four Kumaras, are also invisible to ordinary persons, although they are traveling all over the universe in different planetary systems. When Sanatana Goswami went to see Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he could not be recognized by Chandrasekhar Acharya. The conclusion is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart, and his pure devotees, the Vaishnavas, are also traveling all over the world. But those who are under the modes of material nature cannot understand the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of this cosmic manifestation, or the Vaishnavas. It is said, therefore, that one cannot see the Supreme Personality of Godhead or a Vaishnava with these material eyes. One has to purify his senses and engage in the service of the Lord. Then gradually one can realize who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who is a Vaishnava. Text 10. A person who is not very rich and is attached to family life becomes highly glorified when saintly persons are present in his home. The master and servants who are engaged in offering the exalted visitors water, a sitting place, and paraphernalia for reception are glorified, and the home itself is also glorified. Purport. Materially, if a man is not very rich, he is not glorious. And spiritually, if a man is too attached to family life, he is also not glorious. But saintly persons are quite ready to visit the house of a poor man or a man who is attached to material family life. When this happens, the owner of the house and his servants are glorified because they offer water for washing the feet of a saintly person, sitting places, and other things to receive him. The conclusion is that if a saintly person goes to the house of even an unimportant man, such a person becomes glorious by his blessings. It is therefore the Vedic system that a householder invite a saintly person in his home to receive his blessings. The system is still current in India, and therefore saintly persons, wherever they go, are hosted by the householders, who in turn get an opportunity to receive transcendental knowledge. It is the duty of a sannyasi, therefore, to travel everywhere, just to favor the householders who are generally ignorant of the values of spiritual life. It may be argued that all householders are not very rich, and that one cannot receive great saintly persons or preachers because they are always accompanied by their disciples. If a householder is to receive a saintly person, he has to receive his entourage also. It is said in the Shastras that Durvasa Muni was always accompanied by 60,000 disciples. And if there was a little discrepancy in the reception, he would be very angry and would sometimes curse the host. The fact is that every householder, regardless of his position or economic condition, can at least receive saintly guests with great devotion and offer them drinking water, for drinking water is available always. In India, the custom is that even an ordinary person is offered a glass of water if he suddenly visits and one cannot offer him foodstuff. If there is no water, then one can offer a sitting place, even if it is on straw mats. And if one has no straw mat, he can immediately cleanse the ground and ask the guest to sit there. Supposing that a householder cannot even do that, then with folded hands, he can simply receive the guest saying, "Welcome." And if he cannot do that, then he should feel very sorry for his poor condition and shed tears and simply offer obeisances with his whole family, wife and children. In this way, he can satisfy any guest, even if the guest is a saintly person or a king. Text 11. On the contrary, even though full of all opulences and material prosperity, any householder's house where the devotees of the Lord are never allowed to come in, and when there is no water for washing their feet, is to be considered a tree in which all venomous serpents live. Purport. In this verse, the word tirtapadiya indicates devotees of Lord Vishnu or Vaishnavas. As far as Brahmanas are concerned, in the previous verse, the mode of reception has already been described. Now in this verse, special stress is given to the Vaishnavas. Generally, the sannyasis, or those in the renounced order of life, take trouble to enlighten the householders. There are ekadandi sannyasis and tridandi sannyasis. The ekadandi sannyasis are generally followers of Shankaracharya, and they are known as Mayavadi sannyasis, whereas the tridandi sannyasis are followers of Vaishnava acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, and so on. And they take trouble to enlighten the householders. Ekadandi sannyasis can be situated on the platform of pure Brahman because they are aware that the spirit soul is different from the body, but they are mainly impersonalists. The Vaishnavas know that the absolute truth is the Supreme Person, and that the Brahman effulgence is based on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14:27, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. The conclusion is that Tirthapadiya refers to Vaishnavas. In the Bhagavatam 1.13.10, there is also another reference, Tirthi kurvanti tirthani. Wherever he goes, a Vaishnava immediately makes that place a tirtha, a place of pilgrimage. The Vaishnava sannyasis travel all over the world to make every place a place of pilgrimage by the touch of their lotus feet. It is mentioned here that any house which does not receive a Vaishnava in the manner already explained in the previous verse is to be considered the residential quarters of venomous serpents. It is said that around the sandalwood tree, which is a very valuable tree, there is a venomous serpent. Sandalwood is very cold, and venomous serpents, because of their poisonous teeth, are always very warm, and they take shelter of these sandalwood trees to become cooler. Similarly, there are many rich men who keep watchdogs or doormen and put up signs that say, "Do not enter, trespassers not allowed, beware of dog," etc. Sometimes in Western countries a trespasser is shot, and there is no crime in such shooting. This is the position of demoniac householders, and such houses are considered to be the residential quarters of venomous snakes. The members of such families are no better than snakes, because snakes are very much envious, and when that envy is directed to the saintly persons, their position becomes more dangerous. It is said by Chanakya Pandit that there are two envious living entities, the snake and the envious man. The envious man is more dangerous than a snake, because a snake can be subdued by charming mantras or by some herbs, but an envious person cannot be pacified by any means. Text 12. Swagatam. Maharaj Prthu offered his welcome to the four Kumaras, addressing them as the best of the Brahmanas. He welcomed them, saying, "From the beginning of your birth, you strictly observed the vows of celibacy, and although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you are keeping yourselves just like small children." Purport. The specific importance of the Kumaras is that they were brahmacharis, living the life of celibacy from birth. They kept themselves as small children, about 4 or 5 years old, because by growing into youth, one's senses sometimes become disturbed and celibacy becomes difficult. The Kumaras therefore purposefully remained children, because in a child's life the senses are never disturbed by sex. This is the significance of the life of the Kumaras, and as such, Maharaj Prthu addressed them as the best of the Brahmanas. Not only were the Kumaras born of the best Brahmana, Lord Brahma, but they are addressed herein as Dvija Shrestha, the best of the Brahmanas, on account of their being Vaishnavas also. As we have already explained, they have their sampradaya, disciplic succession, and even to date, the sampradaya is being maintained and is known as the Nimbarka Sampradaya. Out of the 4 sampradayas of the Vaishnava Acharyas, the Nimbarka Sampradaya is one. Maharaj Prthu specifically appreciated the position of the Kumaras because they maintained the brahmacharya vow from the very beginning of their birth. Maharaj Prthu, however, expressed his great appreciation of Vaishnavism by addressing the Kumaras as Vaishnava Shrestha. In other words, everyone should offer respect to a Vaishnava without considering his source of birth. Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. No one should consider a Vaishnava in terms of birth. The Vaishnava is always the best of the Brahmanas, and as such, one should offer all respect to a Vaishnava, not only as a Brahmana, but as the best of the Brahmanas. Text 13. Prthu Maharaj inquired from the sages about persons entangled in this dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons, whose only aim is sense gratification, be blessed with any good fortune? Purport. Prthu Maharaj did not ask the Kumaras about their good fortune because the Kumaras are always auspicious by dint of their life in celibacy. Since they are always engaged on the path of liberation, there was no question of ill fortune. In other words, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas who are strictly following the path of spiritual advancement are always fortunate. The question was asked by Prthu Maharaj for his own sake, since he was in the position of a grihastha and in charge of the royal authority. Kings are not only grihasthas, who are generally absorbed in sense gratification, but are sometimes employed to kill animals in hunting because they have to practice the killing art. Otherwise, it is very difficult for them to fight their enemies. Such things are not auspicious. 4 kinds of sinful activities, associating with women for illicit sex, eating meat, intoxication, and gambling, are allowed for the Kshatriyas. For political reasons, sometimes they have to take on these sinful activities. Kshatriyas do not refrain from gambling. One vivid example is the Pandavas. When the Pandavas were challenged by the opposite party, Duryodhana, to gamble and risk their kingdom, they could not refrain, and by that gambling they lost their kingdom, and their wife was insulted. Similarly, the Kshatriyas cannot refrain from fighting if challenged by the opposite party. Therefore, Prthu Maharaj, taking consideration of all these facts, inquired whether there is any auspicious path. Grihastha life is inauspicious because Grihastha means consciousness for sense gratification. And as soon as there is sense gratification, one's position is always full of dangers. This material world is said to be padam yad bipadam natesham, danger, dangerous in every step. Bhagavatam 10:14-58. Everyone in this material world is struggling hard for sense gratification. Clearing all these points, Maharaj Prthu inquired from the 4 Kumaras about the fallen conditioned souls who are rotting in this material world due to their past bad or inauspicious activities. Is there any possibility for their auspicious spiritual life? In this verse, the word indriyarthartha vedinam is very significant. It indicates persons whose only aim is to satisfy the senses. They are also described as patitanam, or fallen. Only one who stops all activities for sense gratification is considered to be elevated. Another significant word is swakarma B. One becomes fallen by dint of his own past bad activities. Everyone is responsible for his fallen condition because of his own activities. When activities are changed to devotional service, one's auspicious life begins. Text 14. Prthu Maharaj continued, "My dear sirs, there is no need to ask about your good and bad fortune, because you are always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you." Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya 4, 176, it is said, "Dvaite Bhadra Bhadra Jnana Sabhamanu Dharma E Bala E Manda E Sabarama." In this material world, the auspicious and inauspicious are simply mental consciousness concoctions, because such things exist only due to association with the material world. This is called illusion, or Atmamaya. We think ourselves created by material nature exactly as we think ourselves experiencing so many things in a dream. The spirit soul, however, is always transcendental. There is no question of becoming materially covered. This covering is simply something like a hallucination or a dream. In Bhagavad Gita 262, it is also said, "Sangat sanjate kama." Simply by association, we create artificial material necessities. Jayato vishayang pungsa sangas teshu bhajayate. When we forget our real constitutional position and wish to enjoy the material resources, our material desires manifest, and we associate with varieties of material enjoyment. As soon as the concoctions of material enjoyment are there, because of our association, we create a sort of lust or eagerness to enjoy them. And when that false enjoyment does not actually make us happy, we create another illusion, known as anger. And by the manifestation of anger, the illusion becomes stronger. When we are illusioned in this way, forgetfulness of our relationship with Krishna follows, and by thus losing Krishna consciousness, our real intelligence is defeated. In this way, we become entangled in this material world. In Bhagavad Gita 263, it is said, "Krodad bhavati samoha, somohat smritibib brahmaha, smritibrangshad buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashati." By material association, we lose our spiritual consciousness. Consequently, there is the question of the auspicious and inauspicious. But those who are Atmarama, or self-realized, have transcended such questions. The Atmaramas, or self-realized persons, gradually making further progress in spiritual bliss, come to the platform of association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the perfection of life. In the beginning, the Kumaras were self-realized impersonalists, but gradually they become attracted to the personal pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that for those who are always engaged in the devotional service of the Personality of Godhead, the duality of the auspicious and inauspicious does not arise. Prthu Maharaj is therefore asking about auspiciousness, not for the sake of the Kumaras, but for his own sake. Text 15. I am completely assured that personalities like you are the only friends for persons who are blazing in the fire of material existence. I therefore ask you how in this material world we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life. Purport. When saintly persons go from door to door to see those who are too much materially engaged, it is to be understood that they do not go to ask anything for their personal benefit. It is a fact that saintly persons go to materialists just to give real information of the auspicious. Maharaj Prthu was assured of this fact. Therefore, instead of wasting time by asking the Kumaras about their welfare, he preferred to inquire from them whether he could soon be relieved from the dangerous position of materialistic existence. This was not, however, a question personally for Prthu Maharaj. It was raised to teach the common man that whenever one meets a great saintly person, one should immediately surrender unto him and inquire about relief from the material pains of existence. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Sangsara Vishanale, Sangsara Vishanale, Divanishi Huya Jwale, Judayiti na Kainu Upaya. We are always suffering from material pangs, and our hearts are burning, but we cannot find any way out of it. The materialistic person can also be called a tapasvi, which means someone who is always suffering from material pains. One can get rid of all these material pains only when he takes shelter of the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna. This is also explained by Narottam Das Thakur. Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana Ratina Janmila Kinitoya. Narottam Das Thakur regretted that he did not pursue his attraction for the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. The conclusion is that all persons in this material world are suffering from material pains, and if one wants to get rid of them, he must associate with saintly persons, pure devotees of the Lord, and chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the only auspicious way for materialistic persons. Text 16. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities who are His parts and parcels. And for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. Purport. There are different kinds of transcendentalists, namely the Jnanis, or impersonalists, the mystic yogis, and of course, all the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were both yogis and Jnanis, and finally bhaktas later on. In the beginning they were impersonalists, but later they developed devotional activities. Therefore they are the best of the transcendentalists. The devotees are representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to elevate the conditioned souls to their original consciousness, they travel all over the universes to enlighten the conditioned souls about Krishna consciousness. The best devotees are Atmavat, or those who have fully realized the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Paramatma, is sitting within everyone's heart, trying to elevate everyone to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Therefore he is called Atma Bhavana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always trying to give the individual soul the intelligence to understand about himself. He is always with the individual as a friend, sitting by the side of a friend. And he gives facilities to all living entities according to their desires. The word Atmavatam is significant in this verse. There are three different kinds of devotees, namely Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The neophyte, the preacher, and the Mahabhagavat, or the highly advanced devotee. The highly advanced devotee is one who knows the conclusion of the Vedas in full knowledge. Thus he becomes a devotee. Indeed, not only is he convinced himself, but he can convince others on the strength of Vedic evidence. The advanced devotee can also see all other living entities as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord without discrimination. The Madhyamadikari, preacher, is also well versed in the Shastras and can convince others also, but he discriminates between the favorable and the unfavorable. In other words, the Madhyamadikari does not care for the demoniac living entities, and the neophyte Kanishta Adhikari does not know much about Shastra, but has full faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were Mahabhagavatas, because after scrutinizingly studying the absolute truth, they became devotees. In other words, they were in full knowledge of the Vedic conclusion. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by the Lord that there are many devotees, but a devotee who is fully conversant in the Vedic conclusion is very dear to him. Everyone is trying to elevate himself to the highest position according to his mentality. The karmis, who have a bodily concept of life, try to enjoy sense gratification to the utmost. The jnani's idea of the highest position is merging into the effulgence of the Lord, but a devotee's highest position is in preaching all over the world the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the devotees are actually the representatives of the Supreme Lord, and as such, they travel all over the world directly as Narayana, because they carry Narayana within their hearts and preach his glories. The representative of Narayana is as good as Narayana, but he is not to conclude, like the Mayavadis, that he has become Narayana. Generally, a sannyasi is addressed as Narayana by the Mayavadis. Their idea is that simply by taking sannyas, one becomes equal to Narayana, or becomes Narayana himself. The Vaishnava conclusion is different, as stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Sakshad Durit Tvena Samasta Shastraya Uktas Tata Bhavjata Eva Sadbihi Kintu Prabor Yapriya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanada Vindam. Well, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It's very late.
That's okay. Better late than never, as they say.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, a devotee is as good as Narayana, not by becoming Narayana, but by becoming the most confidential servant of Narayana. Such great personalities act as spiritual masters for the benefit of the people in general, and as such, a spiritual master who is preaching the glories of Narayana should be accepted as Narayana and be given all respects due him. Text 17. The great sage Maitri continued, thus Sanat Kumara, the best of the celibates, after hearing, well, Hare Krishna, Mukul Hare Bo, better late than never. Hare Krishna, welcome home after a troubled journey. Read this verse again. The great sage Maitri continued, thus Sanat Kumara, the best of the celibates, after hearing the speech of Prthu Maharaj, which was meaningful, appropriate, full of precise words, and very sweet to hear, smiled with full satisfaction and began to speak as follows. Purport. Prthu Maharaj's talks before the Kumaras were very laudable because of so many qualifications. A speech should be composed of selected words, very sweet to hear and appropriate to the situation. Such speech is called meaningful. All these good qualifications are present in Prthu Maharaj's speech because he is a perfect devotee. It is said, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate sudaha. For one who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. Thus the Kumaras were very much pleased, and Sanat Kumara began to speak as follows. Text 18. Sanat Kumara said, My dear King Prthu, I am very nicely questioned by you. Such questions are beneficial for all living entities, especially because they are raised by you, who are always thinking of the good of others. Although you know everything, you also ask such questions because that is the behavior of saintly persons. Such intelligence is befitting your position. Purport. Maharaj Prthu was well conversant in transcendental science, yet he presented himself before the Kumaras as one ignorant of it. The idea is that even if a person is very exalted and knows everything, before his superior, he should present questions. For instance, although Arjuna knew all the transcendental science, he questioned Krishna as if he did not know. Similarly, Prthu Maharaj knew everything, but he presented himself before the Kumaras as if he did not know anything. The idea is that questions by exalted persons put before the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or his devotees, are meant for the benefit of the general people. Therefore, sometimes great personalities put themselves in that position and inquire from a higher authority because they are always thinking of the benefit of others. Hare Krishna. We'll stop there. Reading for tonight and ask if there's any reflections. Some pretty nice points being made all through this section.
I suppose I missed most of it, but the last I got is.
Yeah, you got the
Was
essence.
it talking about humility?
You got the essence.
I don't know. I'm just. Hare Krishna. Thank you for reading the little bit I had. No, I just deciphered. I thought, the last paragraph always says the conclusion, and I was just wondering if the whole reading was, or most of it was, based on humility. I don't. That's what my reflection is from the little bit I heard.
Well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good assent. The essence. It is the essence of it. The essence of the whole reading was how a saintly person deals with a saintly person, or how a person who is pious deals with a saintly person. And there was one part that really intrigued me, and that was the part in which it's described how a saintly person is supposed to be greeted. And if you're capable of it, then you give them a very nice seat, and you give them, very nice prasad, and you wash their feet, and you pour the water on the head of your, and then it kept going down. One doesn't have very much facilities, so he offers at least a sitting place, something, mat, something, and some water, right? And then if they can't even do that, then they're supposed to, smile and greet them with sweet words, and clean the ground in that place and ask them to sit down. And if they can't even do that, then they're considered to be very unfortunate.
Yes.
So, so even the poorest person can get the supreme benefit of associating with saintly persons if they just know how to act. And that's, for me, this is the essence of this movement. It's the essence of Srila Prabhupada's personal presence on this earth, the essence of the Bhagavatam and all of the literatures that he translated and commented upon. And that is for us to be able to learn how to practice being saintly, even if we're not yet. If we just hear these qualities, how they speak to one another, the level of respect that they give it to one another, how, what was it we heard? The speech of a person should be, full of meaningful words, nicely placed. It should be pleasing to the ear, and also it should be profound. It should mean something, And nowadays, I was thinking, while I read it, I was thinking about all these, sitcoms and, late night comics that whatever is happening, they just, tear it to pieces and make a joke out of it. and even people who are less fortunate get laughed at because they fall off a ladder, or whatever contrivance they have to make other people, make fun of other people. It's completely opposite to what we just heard. I'm going on and on now. Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'm starting to hog the show. We need some more. We need some more reflections over here. Yes, Uncle John, please. You've got the floor. You got the floor and you got the mic. That's it.
I just thought this was pretty good. I was reading in this other book by Prabhupada, and it says, for one who regularly attends classes on Srimad-Bhagavatam and renders service to the pure devotee, as y'all were talking about, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of natural modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. And it goes on.
Well done, sir.
That's profound.
Yes. Very nice. Excellent. Beyond delusion, illusion, and doubt. Nice. Very nice. What else? We call you. We're calling you out. Come out. or jump in. The water's fine. Go ahead. Bhakti-dan.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you again for your reading. At least today, this has been a big topic. The 4 different sampradayas that are, and I just would like to hear what you have to say on the differences between the 4 different sampradayas. Like, do some of the teachings differ between the 4? I'm a little confused on the topic.
Well, there's one common denominator, and that's why they're all called Vaishnava sampradayas, because they all accept Vishnu or Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and worship Him. But because every soul is different, it's not that anything is one. Every single person, every single expansion of God, every single expansion of His infinitesimal consciousness, or the particles of His consciousness, each one of them is different and unique. So, in different places in the spiritual world, there are different moods, and there are souls there who want to associate with God, with Vishnu or with Krishna, in that particular mood. So, the Rudra Sampradaya is headed by Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is a very, very special person, as we've heard before, as we've been reading along, that he has a tendency to be very, very liberal, and so his trademark is that he gives shelter to the most fallen, and he uplifts them, and he makes them qualified by his association. And he's not understandable by others very, very well. And many of the persons who take shelter of Lord Shiva, not in the Rudra Sampradaya, which is a Vaishnava Sampradaya, but in other offshoot Sampradayas, which are called Apa Sampradayas. Apa Sampradayas means goes against. Apa means against. So many of the persons who worship Lord Shiva on the plea of being in his Sampradaya, they worship him as God. But he worships Sankarsana, or an expansion of Vishnu as God. He worships Vishnu as God. So therefore it's in our Sampradaya. And we offer all respects to Lord Shiva as Vaishnavanam Yatak Shambhu, as the best of the Vaishnavas, because he's able to deliver practically anyone, whether they're qualified or not. So then now Lakshmi is the goddess of fortune, and she's especially characterized by her opulence, and people worship her, Lakshmi Narayan, in order to get wealth and facilities for comfort and material things, position, and so many things. But ultimately, by worshipping her, you come to Vishnu and you become Lakshmi Narayan, because she's always pointing everybody to Vishnu, her husband, and so therefore the mood is a little different. The mood is in awe and reverence and opulence, and everything's very gorgeous, and everything is very ritualistic, and there's lots of, prayers and you stand here, you can't stand there. You have to stand like this, you can't stand like that. You have to say prayers in a certain way. You can't just say anything. You can't just blurt out something. Everything is very rules and regulations oriented. That's the Sri Sampradaya. That's represented by Ramanuja Acharya. So they all accept Krishna and they all accept Vishnu. But even if they worship Krishna, they don't worship Krishna with Radha. They worship Krishna as Lakshmi and Narayan. Then there's the Kumaras, which we were hearing about today. And the Kumaras are very special, as we heard, because they have done everything. They've done the Jnana Yoga to perfection, they've done the mystic yoga to perfection, and they've done their Bhakti Yoga to perfection. So they're very complete, and therefore everybody offers them respect. And they're so special because they keep themselves like 5-year-old little boys, naked. And they run around naked. Little boys can run around naked. But they're older than anybody, except for Brahma. In the universe, they're the oldest, except for Brahma. So persons who worship them in their sampradaya tend to be, mystic bhaktas. They meditate. They live on tapaloka, which is a place where meditation is the main way of worshiping. And there's a very interesting section in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatana Goswami, who's the author of that prayer we sing every day before we read the Bhagavatam. And there it describes how a devotee, Gopakumar, went to Tapaloka and what he was taught by these Kumaras and what the extent of their mystic powers were. And at one point, they were trying to convince him to stay where they were and do their mystic method of worship. But Gopakumar was by nature a resident of Goloka Vrindavan, or Krishna Loka. Therefore, he didn't quite get it. Even when they were so deep in meditation that they could change their form, their own form, into the form of the deity that they were worshipping, right in front of your eyes. Anybody sees that, and they're going to worship that person as God, or they're going to surrender, because who can do that? But they didn't become satisfied. Gopakumar didn't become satisfied, because as soon as this teaching was over, they all went into their caves and they were just by themselves. And there was no discussion, not much of this that we're experiencing now. What to speak of our kirtans and our festivals and all these things. So, Rudra, Brahma, and the Brahma Sampradaya. Finally, the Brahma Sampradaya, that this Narada Muni, because Narada Muni was the one son, mind-born son of Lord Brahma, who was a pure bhakta, a pure bhakti yogi. And we follow in his footsteps, and we either go to Vaikuntha, or we go to Goloka Vrindavan. Mainly we go to Goloka Vrindavan. And there we worship Radha and Krishna, not Sitaram, not Lakshmi Narayan, or other forms of Krishna and his Vishnu and his consort. We worship Radha and Krishna, the original form of Krishna, and the original form of the goddess of fortune, Radharani. And there, the devotion is pure and spontaneous and not based on any kind of awe and reverence and formality. But in order to get there, you have to be completely pure. You have to be completely purified of any tendency, and you have to have the adhikar. You have to have the greed, literally lobha, greed, since intense desire to be with Radha and Krishna. And luckily for us, who are so fallen in the Kali Yuga, we can't do anything devotional, and we're not qualified to do any of these things. But luckily for us, Radha and Krishna decided to come here in the Kali Yuga after he appeared and left and went back to the spiritual world as Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. In other words, Krishna and Radha and Krishna in the same form. And so what pours out from him is the process of Nam Sankirtan, of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is the topmost mantra. The Maha Mantra means great mantra. It's the topmost mantra. It always has been the topmost mantra. It's not that it's just the topmost mantra now. It always has been. But to get there, to that mantra, through in other times, in other places, through other sampradayas, you have to go through all these different processes. But in Lord Chaitanya's mood and Lord Chaitanya's movement, you just have to hear the Maha Mantra and chant with the devotees the Maha Mantra and the Srimad-Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. That's our process. And worship the deity according to the Narada Pancharatra, which is Narada Muni's instruction to how to worship the deities. So the personalities who are souls who belong there originally, who are natural devotees, they tend to gravitate towards Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitanya's movement and go back to Goloka Vrindavan and engage in spontaneous love with Krishna as a friend without a conception of it being God. It's very rare. I mean, you'll never find in any other religion or any sampradaya where a person can treat Krishna as if he's an inferior. You know, he's like your son. So, come here, do this, eat this, or else you're going to die. You know, Mother Yashoda is always in anxiety that Krishna is going to, jump into a pond of water and drown or touch fire or, mess around with a poisonous snake or whatever things are out there and danger. So she's always in anxiety. She's not looking for peace. She's always in anxiety. But the love that she has for Krishna is so deep and so intense that it controls Krishna. That's the Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnav Sampradaya. Congratulations.
Yeah, wow.
And with that I got to stop because it's 10 minutes to 7. There's going to be a program at Temple at 7. Yes.
Comment and a question by Rati Mandir.
Rati, okay, but I gotta make it quick because we gotta go.
So first she says, Uncle John is a natural. And then she goes with a question. Dear Guru Maharaja, please accept my humble obeisances. Would you please elaborate about the relationships which the pure devotees in the spiritual world have with one another?
They have the same relationships that we have with one another. We have the relationships we have here because those relationships are originally there in Goloka Vrindavan. Same relationships. The difference is, there Krishna is in the center, and here we're in the center. That's the only difference. Therefore, you can become completely satisfied if you go back to Goloka Vrindavan. And with that, I got to stop. Now, let's figure this out. Tomorrow's Ekadasi. So, we do normal? No.
Normal. Tomorrow there is no program in the temple in the evening.
Okay, so tomorrow 6:30. Okay, we're here tomorrow at 6:30. Then that's Ekadasi. And then next day is Varaha, Saturday, the appearance of Lord Varaha, and there will be a program in the evening in the temple. Do we have the timings? Someone has the timings?
I don't think Saturday we have a program. Only on Friday, Sunday we have Nityananda.
Okay. All right, so then Saturday it's at 6:30, and then...
4:30.
Oh, 4:30. Sorry.
Weekend 4:30.
Okay. And then Sunday also, 4:30. Okay. Sunday 4:30. Lord Nityananda's appearance day. Nityananda ki jai. Then Varaha's appearance day, 4:30. And Ekadasi, 6:30. And here we are. We just finished this one. Too late. Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.